Okay, so many people have a way of expressing themselves. Either that's through videos or sometimes through Snapchat stories to even just the littlest thing of writing things down. As you guys may know, back when I was young in middle school, I used to write all my stuff in a journal. It wasn't a diary, it was a journal. And this is where I would write almost all my secrets of basically me back then. Middle school is where I found the things I loved and wanted to keep in my life forever. For example, women, Batman, superheroes, comic books, even video games. But finding out a girl's secret, well, that's a whole different story. And that's the story I'm going to be giving you guys today. But before we get into it, make sure you guys do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also, as we speak right now, I am live on Kick streaming and having fun talking to you guys, telling crazy stories just like this one. So join in on the live streams and let's just get straight into this. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba and welcome back to another insane story. So today's story is something that I really don't know if anyone should do. But if you have a crush that owns a diary, well, my advice would be reading it. I remember back when I was in middle school, there was a girl in my class that I really liked. Now, I talk about her in a ton of stories. I think this girl to this day maybe might be my dream girl. Or maybe not, because now she's like a famous cheerleader, but that's not the point. I remember back when I was in middle school, there was one girl I was, well, considering my crush. She was amazing, she was funny, she had amazing eyes, and honestly, to this day, she still does. Wow, I should maybe really try to get in contact with her. But I remember one time, I was sitting down in the hallway writing in my journal, thinking how cool it would be to be, well, a professional YouTuber one day. Funny enough, that ended up coming true, but still, going on. Anyways, I remember my crush ended up turning the corner, and she saw me sitting on the ground writing in this journal. She looked at me and tilted her head and said, Bubba, I have a question. As I close my book really quickly, I remember I look at her and say, oh yeah, like what's up? She looks at me and says, so like you write in that thing every day. Yeah, what about it? Is what I said. And then she told me, well, I was thinking about getting a diary, but like, I don't know like how to really use it. And I remember I looked at her and my eyes opened wide. First thing I said was, okay, this is a journal, not a diary. Just so you know, I made sure I held my masculinity in front of her. But then also I told her writing into a journal is something that is a daily process. You know what I mean? It's something that is harder than it looks. Like seriously, anyone watching this video right now, go buy a book and try to write into it as much as you can every day. It's honestly really hard for some people since we have technology to do everything. But then I told her, honestly, like my advice, just kind of just get a journal and then just write down whatever you feel. That's kind of like the best way to really explain it, is what I told her. And then I also told her, you see, the same way you talk to friends and you rant about things, I do that with my journal. That way no one hears it other than paper. She looks at me and starts laughing. And then she says, honestly, Bubba, you're actually really smart. And then she ended up walking away. At that point, I'm not gonna lie, I don't think she was actually going to get a journal. But who knows? Maybe she would? It wasn't really my place to say. But also on top of that, having a journal is a big commitment that I don't think most commonly middle schoolers can handle. So I remember I ended up just kind of writing in my journal, explaining how that all just happened, because me talking to my crush was like a big achievement in my life. But then 3 days later, I remember after the weekend, I ended up going to school and I ended up walking down the hallway and I saw my middle school crush writing down something in a journal. I looked at her and I saw she bought like a pink notebook kind of that said Dear Diary on the top of it, and it also had like one of those weird keys and locks that you would get for like, you know, locking like a safe or something. So when I saw that, I was first off kind of jealous because I wish my journal had a lock on it, but also like she actually got one. She got an actual journal. And I remember at first I'm like, okay, you know what? It's none of my business. It's her journal, same way I have my journal. It's a win-win. But then I remember as days went on of her writing down stuff in there that I didn't know about, it got me going crazy. Because think about it, all of my crush's secrets, everything she ever loves and knows is in that book, and I don't have it. Like, how else am I supposed to communicate with a really fine girl that I like without actually having to talk to her, because I ended up just usually wazzing my pants? See what I'm getting at here? That book was a secret weapon. It was like the nuclear launch codes of Russia. That's not a good thing to say, actually, but going on. So I remember I made it my mission to basically get the journal. I needed that journal no matter what. And what ended up happening was, well, I think almost illegal. I remember after school that day, I ended up basically going back home family, and I basically went on my Xbox and started talking to my friend. I started explaining how she also has like a journal and she's writing down stuff. My friends made fun of me of saying that's a diary, but you know what? I ignored them and I told them that I need that book. And my friends would tell me, okay, well, if you want it so bad, she probably puts it in her locker, knowing that's like a safer place than anywhere else, so just go get it from her locker. Huh, is what I said. Why didn't I think of that? So I remember what I ended up doing was I ended up actually, funny enough, telling my friends and planning a way to go to her locker and steal the journal. It was basically like a heist. So I remember the next day at school, when I had a class with my crush, I ended up seeing if she had her journal on her. Clearly she didn't, because honestly, she had one of those really weird, like classy, transparent backpacks where you could see what's in her backpack, which is kind of a weird trend, but at the same time, it really did benefit me in some way. So I remember me seeing that the book wasn't in there. I decided to basically raise my hand in the middle of class and ask to go to the bathroom, when in reality, I wasn't going to the bathroom. I went straight to my crush's locker, and when I got there, I remember I had to know her combination. Now, lucky for me, I actually already knew the combination. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, because my locker was right beside hers, and every time she put her combination down, I would always look, and I kind of memorized it by heart, which is really bad. But going on, I remember I ended up opening her locker and taking the book and shoving it into my locker. I left it in there and I went back straight to class so no suspicion would arise. And then right as class ended, the bell rang to go to lunch. And I remember I ran straight to my locker as fast as I could, opened it, grabbed the book, put it in my backpack that wasn't transparent, by the way, and instantly ran to the music room. I went to the music room because there were these private rooms that you could go into to practice singing without anyone looking. Kind of like an embarrassment saving method, I guess they have back in middle school. And I remember I sat down, I opened the book, and I was reading it. I was reading and reading and reading, and other than my crush having really bad grammar, I learned a lot. Like, for example, she likes it when I wear plaid, for example, and that she wishes that all guys would play a sport. And apparently she was into some guy named Zac Efron. I have no idea, to be honest. But I remember I studied that book like as if it was my next biggest test. And also I did take some photos to take home to memorize as well. I took the photos with my iPod Touch. I love that thing, by the way. And then afterwards, I remember right as I finished taking enough photos and reading it, because she didn't have the journal for long, I remember I ran back to the locker right when the bell rang to go to our next class, and luckily she didn't notice it was gone. So what I ended up doing was, well, opening her locker and shoving the book back in there. But then before I closed the locker and decided to actually, like, you know, leave the book, I couldn't do it. I don't know what it was about me, but I just couldn't leave it. I felt like I was missing something. I wasn't sure what. So I remember I opened the book again and I started skimming through it really fast in front of my crush's locker. Like, this was the worst part of the mission that I don't think anyone should do. As I was looking through it though, I remember I went to the very last page and there was a list called My Crushes. At this point, I was reading through the list, I was looking through it, and I saw my name. I saw my name under the list of my crushes. And even though there were 10 guys and I was, you know, in that list, I was 8th. That means I had a chance. Knowing this, I was excited. And at that point, I knew I had to eliminate the competition. But honestly, this story has been long enough. Make sure you guys do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And trust me when I say this, you're gonna want to know what happens next. And like I always say, fall for more embarrassing stories. Peace out, guys.